Curious George Flies a Kite by Margret and H.A. Reys. This is George. He lives in the house of the man with the yellow hat. George is a little monkey. And all monkeys are curious, but no monkey is as curious as George. That is why his name is Curious George. "I have to go out now," said the man with the yellow hat. "Be a good little monkey till I come back. Have fun and play with your new ball, but do not be too curious." And the man went out. It was a lot of fun for George to play with his big new ball. The ball went up, and George went up. And the ball went down, and George went down. George could do a lot of tricks with his ball, too. This was one of the tricks. He could get up on the ball like this, or do it this way with his head down. This was another trick George could do. He could hold the ball in his head like this. Look, no hands. What a good trick! But where did the ball go? George ran after it. The ball had gone into another room. There was a big window in the room. George liked to look out of that window. He could see a lot from there. He let the ball go and looked out. George could see Bill on his bike and the lake with a boat on it. George could see a big house in a little garden, and a little house in a big garden. The big house was the house where Bill lived. But who lived in the little house? George was curious. Who could live in a house that was so little? George had to find out. So he went to the big garden. The garden had a high wall, but not too high for a monkey. George got up on the wall. All he had to do now was jump down. So George jumped down into the big garden. Now he could take a good look at the little house. And what did he see? A big white bunny and a lot of little bunnies. George looked and looked and looked. Bunnies were something new to him. How funny they were! The big bunny was Mother Bunny. She was as big as George. But the little bunnies were so little that George could hold one of them in his hand. And that is what he wanted to do. How could he get a bunny out of the house? A house must have a door to get in and get out of. But where was the door to the bunny house? Oh, there it was! George put his hand in and took out a baby bunny. What fun it was to hold a baby bunny! And the bunny did not mind. It sat in his hand, one ear up and one ear down, and looked at George, and George looked back at it. Now he and the bunny could play in the garden. They could play a game. They could play Get the Bunny. George would let the bunny hop away, and then he would run after it and get it back. George put the bunny down. Uh-oh. Then he looked away. 1, 2, run! The bunny was off like a shot. George did not look. Now he had to wait a little. 1, 2, 3, 4. He waited. Well, then George looked up. Where was the bunny? He could not see it. Where was it? Where had it gone? George looked for it here, and he looked for it there. He could not find it. Where was the bunny? It could not get out of the garden. It could not get up the wall the way George could. It could not fly away. It had to be here. But it was not. The bunny was gone, and all the fun was gone too. George sat down. He had been a bad little monkey. Why was he so curious? Why did he let the bunny go? Now he could not put it back into the bunny house where it would be with Mother Bunny. Mother Bunny? George looked up. Why, that was it! Mother Bunny could help him. George got up. He had to have some string. Maybe there was some in the garden. Yes, there was a string, and a good one, too. George took the string and went back to the bunny house. Mother Bunny was at the door. George let her out and put the string on her, and Mother Bunny knew what to do. Away she went with her head down and her ears up. All George could do was hold the string and run after her. And then Mother Bunny sat down. She saw something. And George saw it too, something white that looked like a tail, like the tail of the baby bunny. And that is what it was. But where was the rest of the bunny? It was down in a hole. A bunny likes to dig a hole and then go down and live in it. But this bunny was too little to live in a hole. It should live in a bunny house. So George got hold of the little white tail and pulled the baby bunny out. Then they all ran back to the bunny house. George did not have to put a string on the baby bunny. It ran after its mother all the way home. George took the string off Mother Bunny and helped them back into the house. Then Mother Bunny and all the little ones lay down to sleep. George looked at them. It was good to see the baby bunny back where it should be. And now George would go back to where he should be. When he came to the wall, he could see something funny in back of it. George got up on the wall to find out what it was. What do you think it is? He saw a long string on a long stick. A fat man had the long stick in his hand. What could the man do with a stick that long? George was curious. The fat man was on his way to the lake, and soon George was on his way to the lake too. The man took a hook out of his box, put it on a string, and then put something on the hook. Then the man let the string down into the water and waited. Now George knew the string on the stick was to fish with. Then the man pulled the string out of the water. There was a big fish on the hook. George saw the man pull one fish after another out of the lake till he had all the fish he wanted. What fun it must be to fish! George wanted to fish too. He had his string. All he needed was a stick, and he knew where to get that. George ran home as fast as he could. Have you gone fishing? In the kitchen, he took the mop off the kitchen wall. The mop would make a good stick. Now George had the string and the stick. He was all set to fish. Or was he? Not yet. George had to have a hook, and on the hook something that fish like to eat. Fish would like cake, and George knew where to find some. But where could he get a hook? Why, there was a hook for the mop on the kitchen wall. It would have to come out.